Hey, Gabe.
Hello.
Okay.
And my mom,
Yeah, I do that.
and my mom from the other side.
Okay.
Did that several years ago, I was stationed in DC.
Hey, Gabe. Hello. You need to mute the YouTube. Mute the YouTube channel.
What about the YouTube channel?
Well, YouTube broadcast,
Okay.
if you mute that.
What is that sound? What are we hearing? Can you come over here?
Please mute the YouTube channel.
Of course, I can't hear anything about. So do I go back up? Yeah. Yeah.
No, click on it.
Click on it. This right here.
Go ahead.
Click again.
Now mute it.
Where? Where is mute? Here?
Speak.
Okay. Okay. Every time it's different here. It's still. Where is the sound coming from? I just hit mute. but
No, you need to.
Every time it's still.
Ah,
You got too many windows open there. You see it's live on YouTube
Yeah.
and now it's recording. Oh, it's recording plus.
Yeah.
Now you're
I know, that's kind of what I mean. So, Marcia. So, Candy said she would not, Candy said she couldn't come.
oh, she's not coming.
I think that's what she said.
Oh, hi, Kate. Any chair available right next to Jan or over here next to, over here in the corner? If you'd like to sit up there. I think we will call this meeting to order. 6:01. Not quite 6. Okay. All right, folks, tonight the big item is really going to be about the design phase of things, but we have some business to take care of. And I first want to welcome our 2 new members, Kate Clark and Jan Gaudio, which I think most of you know. But maybe each of you could say a little bit about yourselves and why you think you'd like, what about this committee appeals to you in terms of working.
I moved to Southampton 3 years ago. Superintendent of schools out in Hope, Appleton, and Lincolnville. 40th year in education, so I know a little bit about school buildings. Thought I could be helpful, but also wanted to participate in the town and hoping that we help out with me.
That's you, okay.
You should let me know.
I have to let you in. Okay, Jan, I know that we know who you are, but maybe what your interest is.
Live here in South Thomaston, have for quite a few years now, about 20 years, and I'm a selectman. And I was a selectman at the time when we did the study about the community center / library, and still have an interest in it. So when the opportunity to serve rose its head again, I said, be involved.
I think we should, I'm Kathleen Lamb, and, you know, I'm not from here originally, obviously. But same thing, I have lived here for 7 years and, you know, I want to help. I'm Laura Five. I've owned property here in South Thompson for 41 years and moved here permanently 17 years. And I used to be chair of the budget committee here, knowing that I was going on. Nice to meet you. Mark.
Yeah, I'm Marcia Turner. I have owned property here since 1976 and I lived here for
Candace, you know Jan, do you?
I met you, you were in the audience before. We're
Yes,
so
I was.
very happy to have you.
Thank you.
Kate Clark.
Nice to meet you, and thank you for joining us. My name is Candace Smith. I'm a newbie. I've been here exactly 3 years and 2 months. and I love it. My son has lived in Maine for probably 18 years and kept saying to us, come. And we found that it's.
Wanna introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Gary Lucillo. I'm one of the chairs of the committee. Thompson, about 3 years. And I'm an architect.
We have mutual.
We have a group. And that's me.
You did forget to say that you were a new daddy.
Right.
Yeah. Everybody is on Zoom.
Oh, okay, we have,
We have more.
Betty Lunch down here at the bottom. Hello, Betty. And Maureen.
Yeah.
Spencer. Oh, yes, and Paul.
What's that?
One.
Thank you.
Okay, adjustments to the agenda. I actually have one is that we are approving 2 sets of minutes, not just one set on for March 28th. I also just have to say, as many of you know, I have a hearing problem. And so speaking maybe a little louder than you usually do and clearly, and I'm promising you I'm getting new hearing aids this summer. So it's been awful. So I appreciate that if you could do that for me. Okay, public comments for items not on the agenda. No,
Hearing none.
none.
No, I would.
Okay, go ahead.
I would like to let the full committee know that there was a illegal executive session held Monday night that was broadcast on YouTube and seen by several people. I thought it was, don't know what happened.
But we're not really going to talk about that tonight. I've talked with John and I've talked with other people. I think the main thing is we were talking about candidates, which we're going to talk about for the board. And that's a private conversation. So there's no reason for us to go into it any further at this point.
Maureen has her hand up as well. Sorry for me to come back to you. Maureen is frozen.
Muted, I think.
I don't think she heard you.
Maureen, you're muted.
I realize you just said you weren't going to talk about it, but the thing is you went into an illegal meeting and it was taken off YouTube, and I just want to know why.
It wasn't supposed to be recorded, Maureen, and that was some accident probably of mine, but that's really all I'm going to say about it tonight. That's not what we're here for. So that's it.
Well, it was illegal, so I don't understand why it was taken down. That's my comment. Thank you.
You can talk to John Sphere about it if you like.
Oh, I will.
Okay, can we, yes,
Have we found out what the technical glitch was? Because I know that we asked 3 or 4 times, is it not recording?
yeah, I had hit do not record or stop recording.
And so I guess I'm confused since I've just heard about this, why people are saying illegal.
I can answer. that.
Okay, I appreciate that.
But first of all, you stopped recording to Zoom, but you were live on YouTube. And then you stopped the camera, but you left the audio going, and the whole thing was on YouTube. There was much discussion beyond the nominees to the.
Not that much, not that much. We stopped one conversation from going forward and basically we needed to talk about candidates and that's what we did. We were going through our list of candidates. So,
I will be taking this to the select board.
Okay. all right, but we have another agenda for tonight. So thank you very
And
much.
I just wanted the rest of the community to be aware that this happened. There was a lot of talk that was committee talk, not nomination talk, that
Oh, boy.
not happening.
I just heard about it yesterday. That was a week after the meeting, so I'm not sure what that was about. Anyway, all right, review and approval of minutes from March 28th. You all have copies. Those of you who were there can vote. But let's have a minute to read both the minutes for the 28th, March 28th, and then we will approve those, and then we will read them April 6th. Make a motion?
Make a motion to accept the minutes of April 6th. Oh. That's the shortest one. Miracle. Yes, I make a motion to accept the minutes of meeting number 17 on March 28, 2027.
Okay,
The only discussion that I had on that was should we correct the dates of next meeting, now that we know that they are different.
No, because we didn't know that at that time, so that didn't happen in the minutes. What can be done is in the minutes today, we put a note that things got changed.
Okay, that's fine. That was my only-
what we were trying to do is get 2 meetings near each other by about 2 weeks, but then the May 11th meeting didn't happen and we had to move it. And then, so therefore we moved the next one to June 1st. Which is a regular day for us, a Thursday. Okay, all in favor? Did somebody second? Oh, you second, Candace, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay, now, the minutes of April 6th.
Repeating my motion. to accept.
Awesome.
There's only 4 people.
It was a Zoom meeting. The purpose of that meeting was to approve the report that we did for the town.
All in favor?
Aye.
No, I was going to say, they just.
That's true. Okay, you want to take over?
Nominating committee report.
Yes.
Throwing it back to you.
We met, so, I mean, you don't need to have copies of this, I'm gonna read it to you, but if anybody wants to take one home with them, they are welcome to. We met on May 8th. And we, there were 3 of us, we have who's known as that not there. So we at present have 1 board member committed to serving on the board. We have 1 interested citizen who would like to finish her present commitments before joining the board, so that may be a while yet. We have 3 interested citizens who have agreed to meet with us in May. We have 1 interested citizen who is fully in support of the project and will continue to consider joining the board. What other things we need to do as a group, the facility committee, this group will need to nominate and choose a member from this committee to serve on the board. And the select board will be asked to select one of their members after town meeting to serve on the board. So we're getting farther along. It's actually, we've had some great conversations with people. And I think what we found is that meeting in one-on-one conversations, or maybe a couple of people in the room with 2 of us on the nominating committee, questions can get asked and people can raise concerns, or they can, you know, try to understand things around the commitment of the board members and what would be expected. And that's been really helpful, I think. Kate and Jan, these are the, did you get to see that? Did you get to see this? This is the packet of materials, giving prospective candidates for the board. There's a schedule of what's in here on here, and here's all the information. If you want.
Thank you.
Okay. And also we have asked everybody to try to generate new names. You know, we are still looking for new names. If you know anybody in town that you'd like to know, you know, bring to our attention, we would be happy to talk with them, and the same with you, Jan, as well. And any of the rest of you, we are working our way through a list of about 12, I think, and we're getting pretty far along. So that's it. And I do have these if anybody wants to. There's a whole lot of them. Okay, Dave, I'm going to hand it over to you.
To them, go over there. Officially hand it over to myself.
Okay.
Sorry, everyone, for this short delay. So at the last meeting, we had a good discussion, just sort of free flowing on the whiteboard about some arrangements of spaces, and what we decided was that we needed to look at them a little bit more to scale. Understand how the things fit together a little bit better. We'll share my screen. I have created very basic diagrams that show the spaces to scale in sort of loosely in arrangement similar to what we discussed, but no caution that these are nowhere near figured out. And what I'd like to do at this meeting is take the opportunity for people to comment in real time and maybe sort of shift the boxes around as we see fit to create new versions of share. Here some point. How do we get them? Yeah, I can just close the box. No, it can go away. It's not gonna hurt anybody. Anyway, so, yeah, these boxes are roughly to scale. A quick discussion, let me zoom in a tiny bit. Let's see if we'll better on the screen. I've increased the size of the main meeting space to a larger size. this is actually based on a chair layout for 200 chairs. So that's, you know, with some space for a presenter, some space for casework, for a kitchen type space. So my thought there is, you know, we see a dividing line down the middle. That's a 1,800 square foot space that can be divided into two, large enough to host town meeting, and includes the kitchen in one of the two sets. So, and just so we're clear here, orange spaces are community spaces, gray spaces are shared, and blue are library spaces. And north is down.
North north is down.
North is down.
Okay.
So that's, and then, you know, the reception and bath and shower spaces are sort of connecting to wings of the building, as it were, and then in the library section, we have a children's room at the front, 600 square feet, 900 square feet of stacks and reading room, 300 square feet of teen space, and then smaller spaces for book sale, office, and circulation desk. So you can see then the arrows indicating roughly how people move through here, like go from reception past the circulation desk into the reading room, and then from reading room into the other spaces on the library side, and then like, similarly, they have direct access, possibly from the reception into the multi-purpose meeting room in case that was to be for hours or something. Community spaces aren't open, and they would also have access. You know, I would recommend, I didn't actually draw it, and recommend the connection directly from the main meeting spaces. There's missing from this is general storage, block, mechanical space. I think it's more important that we decide on the relationship between the main spaces and functional spaces, and then once it turns from a block diagram, something like this, into a floor plan, is when those spaces would be added. Because the particulars of the shape, time, leftover spaces and things of that nature that fit those things. So I think I would recommend that we consider this just a discussion of the primary spaces for now. And so this is all on one floor.
The large orange space with the dividing line, that's the community.
That's the
that
community
being a
space, yeah.
Town meeting or a social event
Yes,
space.
exactly.
Okay.
600, so that's 20 feet by 30 roughly. Just so you get a sense of that, what the 800 square feet is, that's about 30, what is it, 36 by 50. Pretty large. Divided, right now I'm trying to divide it right down the middle. To be divided anyway.
Also, the divided, the dotted lines, is that a movable?
Yeah,
wall?
it would be. I mean, imagine that you have it open most of the time. Once you have it open. Any comments? I think, you know, we can just, anyone who wants to start, we can. And I've also just quickly, if we wanted to look, also there is a 2-story version, which we talked about. This one is even, it's a less resolved, because it's just, you know, it's taking the same boxes and moving them around. So the idea that you have a reception. Basic idea was, we're going here, that we have this is live, 2 stories, but it is- do this. 2 stories. The grade plane does something like that. So that you have direct entry
Oh,
on the
that's
upper level. Come from one side and the lower level on the other side, so. That is why the location of the stair is currently where it is. So you would enter from the high side, going starting at the upper level, which is the gray and blue. starting with reception, you have the ability to go downstairs. Showers and baths right there. Again, to get into the library, you circulate through the area that also contains the circulation desk. So the circulation desk is a welcoming presence. You see the desk when you come in, but it also has the ability to sort of look into these areas. Books out in office are as well. And
There is no this.
also down,
What?
also down, yeah. And I'll email this around. I have, they're in the little. And then I would say also, you come down and then that puts you in like a little bit of a lobby situation down below where you have access from the low side. And you, from there, you can sort of circulate. into space.
That doing that large space in terms of egress, if you're going great.
It's at grade on that side, on the high side, on the side, and that's the top of the page. So you have at grade egress along that.
So the stacks are the one which have the best exposure.
Yeah, in the reading space. Depends whether you think of the stacks as primarily book storage or as a reading space and also.
But it's like if you were assume, you know, the community center is going to be the, you know, most active, visited and so forth. So that's, I think that's the area that should have, I mean, in my opinion, the most light all day long.
Well, right now they both have the same full height south exposure.
You say half of the lower floor is buried.
Yeah, so you'd be underground, like starting around there. You know, like that.
But there's possibility the way in which you put windows or you know, doors that have large windows and everything. I don't agree with that, Catherine. I think that the reading room really needs natural light a lot. And the community room, it would be nice, you know, to have light in there too, but the other thing I'm not seeing is a maker's room. Did we do away
That's the
with that?
multi-purpose meeting space.
Okay, thank you so much.
That room got that room has collected a lot of purpose.
Yeah, well, it's because it's very.
I know we talked about 2 floors being less expensive to build, but you have to add an elevator. You got 2 floors, so that's a, you know, that's a chunk of change there.
Yeah, that's a medic that isn't currently shown in here, so that's.
It is so.
Need an elevator, to have ingress and egress on both floors.
Technically, no. If you have 2 floors and you have grade level access at both floors, you don't actually need an elevator. It's a question of whether, you know, there's the accessibility code and then that's what you would want to do for equity. So I think an elevator is desirable from the sense of just making sure that anybody who comes into the building can get anywhere, but it's technically not required.
If you didn't have an elevator, shouldn't you have restrooms on both levels?
Then you would, yes, then you should. I agree. So like I said, this one is this is less resolved. Because it just sort of quickly gives the exercise of splitting the boxes into 2 floors, but many is definitely would have.
I'm still concerned about storage area. In the old library, we had an equal amount of storage as library because library was very big. And we used it full. So where's the stuff gonna go, the signs and books and book sale and tents and playground equipment when playgrounds closed? I mean.
Yeah, I think that you're right. There's no official storage space shown in either of these versions. And I think that was, if we want to make that primary function and say like, well, we need to build in space, then we should do it. I would say, you know, there's in this version, I mean, there's an opportunity. I mean, you could sort of fit where it needs.
Well, in reality, Dave, the building, the floors would be the same dimension.
Yeah.
So the way you've drawn it, it isn't. So you've got extra space there.
Yeah.
On the
Any about how much square footage do you think it needs to be?
Well, where he hasn't filled it in, if you look at the size of the.
Oh, I see, okay, like underneath the children's.
Underneath the
rooms,
children's
yes,
room, underneath
okay.
the second stair.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Here?
You could square those, the
Mhm.
building off more and it
Yeah, exactly.
would give you for utilities and for storage.
Yeah, maybe, go ahead, sorry, Penny. I was wondering about how much. As much as you can get.
Like this, ideally, I mean. There's a lot of stuff that you don't necessarily want to store within your room, your staff. Comes out.
If it's a one-story building and you're still on a grade level, still have some grade levels, is there a possibility of storage space? You know, kind of in a, like a base, a semi-basement? I guess in my head, I like this idea that the community room and the community spaces and the library spaces are like easily, you can travel, you can have a cup of coffee over in the kitchen of the multipurpose room and then you go to your book group and, you know, it feels a little more community minded to me.
You could imagine, for example,
You what?
you could imagine, for example, like just having a small basement there. And that's about 50 square feet. You'd have to add a stair. But I think in the one-story version, the partial basement could be a good solution.
The reason I mentioned a daylight basement is for coming directly off. And then, Penny mentioned the playground. You need to think about egress. It's easier to come through a door from the playground.
Yeah.
From wherever, and have it come in that way for storage. Or if a truck came and was donating a ton of books, it would be easier to come to the door and pull them all out.
Yes.
Instead of cracking them all the way through. I'm in agreement with Sandy that I like the flow better of the one story. I think when you go with the 2-story, you're making a divide. And it's not on purpose, but it does come across as a divide, and it needs to be one building that people move around from one place to the other.
I'm wondering too, could you, you have the storage below the bath and the reception, which I think is a smart use of space. Rather than a, excuse me, a staircase, could you put down a ramp? Oh, no.
The short answer is no.
Okay,
The reason is just because that takes up so much space.
so much more space.
Because if you really want a ramp that's usable for rolling things in, you have to go, the code standard is 12 feet of horizontal distance for 1 foot of vertical distance, so you have to get down 9 feet and 108 foot range. Plus landings, and I think that's,
Okay,
I think it would be easier to create access, like Moira mentioned, than to create an info.
Does that also make sense for the mechanicals to be below
That would
that
be-
shower?
That absolutely would make, yeah, so that would be, basement there.
Sound related.
Hey, can you, I know we're not even talking about the plaid yet, but can you give me a sense of the dimensions of the existing building and this building, as far as how much property it's gonna take up? Because I'm assuming we're gonna need a lot of extra parking in that area.
Need extra parking. I don't know off the top of my head, the existing dimensions of the Guilford Shelter Center. Do you know how big it is on the exterior?
Probably in the plan.
About 60 by 108.
60 by 108.
6,000 doors, 6,000 and something
Yeah.
on the first floor.
See on the plan, and it says it's 109 across, 109 feet by 59.5.
Pretty accurate.
Yeah.
So right now this, I think, let me need to double check quickly.
From the Butler Futures Committee, the first floor was, we considered that 6,000 and the lower level was about 4,000, as I remember.
But the remaining 2,000 was storage and mechanical.
downstairs.
So
Yeah.
it's about 90 feet across this building. A little bit less,
Which one? Yeah,
The
Guilford, Guilford
80
Butler.
feet horizontal, and it's 80 feet horizontal and like 65 feet vertical, right? So 70 feet.
Did you say that again, because you changed it too many times, I want to make sure I have it.
60.
I will tell you. This I believe is 75, 70 vertical, north, south. And then I'm gonna have to add these up. Three. Uh, 84.
84,
84.
84 horizontal.
84 by 70 if you inscribe it in a square. In a rectangle, but it's obviously got, it's not a rectangle, it has a shape that's not exactly that size.
6,300 square feet, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
So it takes up the same
Just about the same footprint, yeah.
footprint, really.
Yeah, it's a little deeper and a little. It is worth mentioning that, you know, building with two wings like this has a lot of advantages in terms of flow, but I think not the cheapest. There's a fair number of foundation corners here, like it's a decent amount of perimeter, like. Again, like I said at the last meeting, I don't think it's like the exact moment to be compromising before we know anything about what a building like this would cost, but it's not the cheapest. Not the cheapest approach to a building of exactly this.
So then could you make a couple of suggestions that would lend us to spend less?
I mean, a two-story building would be cheaper. A building ostensibly that's more of a complete rectangle would be cheaper.
Yeah, and we could do that.
Yeah, I mean, you could, for example, turn both of those two wings more or less sideways and have a longer building that was thinner. You could widen it a little bit to make it less conformable. You could have a two-wing building function that was one rectangle rather than two rectangles. Great.
I don't know that the site would allow you to have much longer building. Because you have the septic tank. Last, and then.
Yeah, we'd have to test it against the survey locations of these things. If we got that.
But then I'm not sure a leach field, exactly where that is, but that would be.
You see this, I know this is a diagrammatic thing. It's not the actual, but where you have the arrows going down, do you see that as, where is north? Is that the road or is that?
North is, like I said, north is down in this.
Yeah.
Which is turned about 20-30 degrees from where the Guilford Butler is.
So
I can show the Guilford Butler Center. It's a confusing orientation right
Is
now.
it something like this? Like I was
Yes.
trying to figure out, you have
That's
70,
it, yeah. That's-
you have 73, and actually the building, the top corner is north and the bottom corner is south.
Yeah.
This is I tried to go and try to
So
figure
this
out.
building would be sort of this way.
Yeah, and it could be, if you could turn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would orient out.
The goal was just to have the, light coming into the racks into the main meeting space.
Right.
The multi-purpose meeting space is more of a maker space, so we're trying to sort of like. we're in our studio, like,
North
even
side,
like,
yeah, that's the one.
A north side entry reception like that is not the greatest because it won't melt snow as easily. So that's a trade-off to consider.
But you would have maybe a covered porch. I mean,
You would have a common.
Would you park the reception in the back?
You could,
What did you say?
depending on where the
So
parking.
the reception with the.
Yeah.
But the idea is to see that it's open from the road as you drive, see activity and like the children room is great, where it is because, see the kids. The teen though, it's hidden.
That's what they like. They like that.
But it's like, it's hidden from the road, so they'll not know if they have friends in there or.
So they'll forget the phone.
That'll be funny.
Depending on the arrangements. If there's more like that, you could start to shift them to make sure that the light.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Cover they need.
Like, the little recess at the top could actually make a nice patio, to eat
Yeah.
outside.
You could imagine like. Yeah. access through.
Yeah.
Split them.
You can, you nail one side, I don't know, if you want to go gender bathroom. So that there is easy access to bathroom from both sides.
Oh, I like this. I like the arrangement of uses. I, I can see it. And, whether there's, we want to make spaces that are flowing and, more organic on the inside with shelves and the, chairs and all that kind of stuff is still down the road, but,
It's really nice. Thank you very much for taking the time to make these visuals because
Yeah,
it does
Very helpful.
really crisp it up a bit. A lot, I should say. It's amazing.
And are the stacks with 900 square feet in the children's room and now the 600? Do those meet your specification?
Well, what we have now is roughly 1,730 square feet of stacks. With both rooms combined.
which both rooms, the children's
children's
and,
room.
and
And
the
also
main
on
line.
the center. Because no lighting problems or healing just crazy.
If you made that blue wing as wide as the orange wing, how many square feet does that add to that? Coming out of the stacks.
400 square feet plus or minus. So yeah, you could do that. The reason I did not do that was because a deeper floor plan is not as nice for natural lighting. Not 30-foot width is like a nice usable span for the structural bay, so you wouldn't have to have any columns on the interior span. The roof is like pretty buildable size. The 36 is also, but it's a pushy. But I think that's the 30 feet is like, this is like it's a nice size for several reasons, but like, I think if we need more space, that would be an easy way to do it.
I'm just looking and thinking, again, we're looking at the rooms, the uses and placement. I understand that. But I'm thinking about the computer, because right now where the computer alley is, it's great. It's private and what have you, but it's not huge. It doesn't overtake the library. So was there a consideration for the computer spaces or
We're
I
not,
think that's a good question. We haven't previously talked about those being separate spaces. But if we think that's separate, I mean, from my perspective, I've sort of been considering that somewhere in the reading. Yeah,
Yeah,
as well.
as well, which makes a lot of sense. Because really, with the number of kids that, we have 56 high school students and 40 middle school students in South Thomas. So
and they probably come after school most
And
of the
so-
time. Maybe a little.
you need to look at the teen room, it's like what, 312 square feet. Needs to be more than just, computers are for teens and everybody else, but you can have it in both places, in that place, and then. Because we don't have a lot of kids, but maybe we will if we have a new building.
But the
Yeah.
other thing too, is don't forget there are a number of adults, and I've seen a goodly number of adults coming in and using that. And I'm looking at where the children's room is, and then the circulation desk right there. And I'm thinking if there was a way in which part of that, where the Stacks Reading Building is, and then there's a building, and then there's like there's a hallway, obviously, right? That's what the white spaces are. Am I?
The white spaces are just to separate the rooms.
Okay, gotcha.
Let's think of them as walls.
Gotcha. So, I'm thinking that the computers might be nicely stacked at the bottom of the stack reading room, which is adjacent to or back-to-back wall, with the children's room, yeah. One of the things that I remember when we visited the, yes, and the woman was really wonderful and very, specific about computers and teams, and what that means is when they're there, somebody has to be monitoring those computers because of the safety factors and because of where they can be accessed and whatnot. So we have to be conscious of that as well. It has to be an important, and she said, it's a person that has to have automatic turn off capability, but once in a blue moon, you get that person who wants to take the risk, and the next thing you know, kid goes home, says something to the parent, all of a sudden, then you get a legal issue, so. That adds difficulty.
It looks like the teen room would be hard to see.
Correct.
Hard to see.
Yeah,
The team
I mean, you
room
have
is-
to step in and find
Yeah.
out what the kids were up to. Yeah, well, that was the other thing we learned, it's from the circulation desk, having, a sight line to
Yes.
things where you really wanted to have, some ability to say, go over there and and just watching, you're
Right.
paying attention.
And as in schools, the teacher has the computers and whatever, and has access to everybody's computer. Just checking in.
Any nook and cranny.
Yeah.
Within seconds, they can change whatever website.
Yes,
As soon as you step over there.
Yeah, but it's, what she was saying is she has to have the capability to shut it down immediately, then step in, you know what I'm saying? So that's what I concur with your thoughts about making sure there's.
Being close to the circulation desk.
One thing I found with the teen room was never used, so we give a lot of space for the teen room, and so I'm just looking at, we need to have it as some type of multi-use room. And if it needs more structure, perhaps it needs to be closer to the circulation desk, like next to the children's. room. Because, when I went to Falmouth, there was one person there, right after school. Person was reading.
Well, that's what they said. It's taken a long time for them to get the teens to come in and use it, but they're starting to, gravitate. And I mean, it's typical, right? Teens don't want you to tell them where to go. So,
Easy way, Dave, to do that is flip the teen in the office buildings to the other wall. Move the stacks over.
Yeah, I think the reason that I wouldn't want to do that is because there's less access to light. I think the thing that I would.
Isn't the natural light on the end of the building, the south end?
It's on all the sides. Well, any side, any exterior wall could have natural. Best natural light is currently from the south end. or if we're considering building the same orientation as before, it's up being south of this corner. But I think, yeah, I think you could just move the teen room down, that's right next to the population there. And then the, you know, book sale or the office. I think it also could just be that the computers aren't in the teen room may be smaller, or the teen room works in the second meeting room, with the teens in there.
Or you move the teen room down and make the stacks an L shape, where it takes part of that. So it's
Yeah.
getting light from all different areas, which makes it a nice space that way.
And you have more reading room all around as you usually.
Tom, what was the vision?
To encourage, first of all, she was explaining that there are the studios. Yes, and they have a nice glassed-in room where they can go in and do that kind of study and whatnot. And there was, I forget if that room had a computer screen or something, yes, so that if their kids were working on a project, that they could visualize that. But the teen room itself was not that space I'm describing now. It was, I don't remember.
There were stacks, they have a lot of books, you know, every.
We have tables, they have two tables, they have an enclosed meeting room.
Yeah, the enclosed meeting room with the
And then
computer screen.
They have, armchairs for.
Oh,
reading.
yes, and then they opened the area.
And then they have
yes.
an open table also near the stacks where they can sit, and like big windows. But clearly there was an office room with glass wall and open door. You were giving directly onto the teen room.
And they had stacks in the teen room.
Yes,
And it was next to the children's room. There was the two.
There was an office in between the two.
Yes,
there was one.
Yeah.
It's important to consider what kind of access we're gonna provide in the library, and then have to think about what is the level of responsibility, right? Because kids are gonna bring their devices, yes, and if they're working on projects, they're all gonna have their own computers and, you know. So if we're providing public computers and we say, okay, in the library, public computers, we're gonna monitor. Right, make sure no one's going on. Board. But unless you hire enough staff, you can't possibly know what every kid is doing on every device. And the whole point is, you're saying, they're gonna work together on new projects, they're gonna have computers, they're gonna have iPhones, iPads, whatever. That I think you have to consider and decide.
big time. And as a matter of fact, that's a question that we should pose to that librarian. Because I don't remember that. I have my note, but I don't remember that. So because of being, she did talk briefly about lots of kids have their own computer. Yeah, but I don't remember that particular piece of information. I don't think I had seen any, standalone computer in that teen area.
Well, they have the checkout thing.
And that's the key, it's like the tower computer, becoming a thing of the past very quickly, and people, even the new libraries are buying laptops, and if somebody wants to borrow a laptop, they borrow a laptop, and then they can use it on.
What is the population of Falmouth?
It's much bigger.
Quite a lot. And
We were talking about town 1600 was all volunteer library community center.
Right.
how many
The
kids?
teams that come in are more apt to be part of the community spaces, not full library spaces. They're doing that at school. They have their own devices. You do not see them.
How many kids come in to do research or papers or, any kind?
They have more volunteering of the teenagers, or they're on the skate park, or they're playing ping pong, or football. But they're not
doing
doing the library.
It was very specific in Falmouth. They came in after school.
But that's a big community.
Yes, absolutely. That's why I'm questioning how much of a space are we obligated to provide?
And devices, are the public computers we have, the two public computers we have rarely are both in use, and 100% by either adults or preteens. those are not used by teenagers.
They
in
also
the-
had a couple of tables in one of these, that space going towards the reading room that, you know, you could plug in, so you could have your own computer, you just plug in.
We're gonna have to think.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about 2 or 3 public computers. I think we can fit them in the main library space. And if there is a teen room, maybe it's better served as like a room for people that hang out.
Yeah.
And maybe that's foosball table or something like.
Yeah.
Any mentioning the teenagers actually.
Well, and I see one as a game room.
Yeah.
For all ages. I really, don't see,
Yeah, that's a good point.
other than the very young and the rest of us.
Designated.
Having them
teams.
separate. And even then, they are sharing, they're all sharing the community space. Young and old.
I, in one community, a much larger community, but the teens, the computers just became where the teens played video games. It was right in the middle of the library, it was really distracting. Kids were, it was not a good situation. We need the library to be.
Well, the one found that said, no, they could not play these. And I don't know, again, that, we have to get that answer. But if we also have the library, where the library has, they have these little, so it's like a bookcase, only it's a slot for charging your the laptop of the libraries. And if you don't allow them to use the laptops that are in the library, then we can monitor things that way, but that's a discussion for later. We need to be worried about the spaces.
I think Penny's point about the staffing is a good one. It's a volunteer organization. You don't have, how many people do you have ever monitoring the library at once do? I think we don't want to make ourselves responsible for thinking.
That
about
would
all
be
that.
just a certain parameters to where you can go online without other people. Yeah. It's just not. It's not.
That
I'm just really concerned that we're looking at these huge libraries and trying to force them onto a very small community center by.
Now, we were pretty aware that this was quite a big, they did 2 additions onto the old library, one on either end, and the children's space was immense. I mean, we were there when there was a play group going on, and it was like a big indoor playground for them. But yeah, it was totally different in scale than what we're talking about. I think we're talking about a jewel of a building as
It's more
opposed to.
It's more than 3 times.
I'm just concerned that there hasn't been much attention given to our current needs and where we are as a library community center.
We would love to hear more about.
I'd like to see more of you there watching.
I think we have to go in and see. There's like, there's people in there playing cribbage, there's people doing all kinds of things that I think we are not considering. We are not Jones. We are a rural community of much different. And I'm just afraid we're not doing what the town wants.
That big meeting space, that's where it would, there would be the kitchen, you would have a kitchen. And, by that, you put all the tables where the people take cribbage and do things, that's where.
Do you think they're going to go away on another wing to go play at game cribbage rather than being close to the library?
Why do they need the library to play cribbage?
Well, Catherine, I think you should come in and see the way. the
I
town is
understand with
using
you,
the library.
but my point is they play in that middle room.
Yes,
And the staff room is a different room.
it is, but they're all close together. It's more of a community. This is separating.
And people do gravitate in and stuff, all of a sudden they'll say, oh, I was thinking about this book, I read that one day before, the Saturday thing. I was surprised at people, maybe they snack and then all of a sudden they're in the library, and then they go back to the snack again. And
Right now, that circulation desk in the meeting room are 18 feet apart. I bet that those doors to those 2 rooms in the current Guilford Public. I think I think it's a good point
Well, they're
to make
connected.
sure, to make sure that the spaces don't feel too separate. I think that's one point. I think very good point that, you know, this right now is extremely abstract. And I think it could definitely, like, more observation of what's currently going on at the library. You know, the group that I think here, you know, work hard to for it. We don't want to go to the next level of detail in this process without knowing a lot about it. And I agree with that. I think the thing that we're really working on now is at such a high level that some of that ultra specificity just won't be captured. Like the tools we're working with, the level of discussion that we're having, like it's gonna leave some of that. And that's partially by design to leave the product at the moment flexible enough to capture like a broad concept and then get us to the point where we can start drilling down on the function of each of these groups to the point where we understand where the cribbage players are going to go. We understand where all of the activities play. But I think, you know, that big scale feedback, like the spaces might be too separate, like that's really useful. And the fact that there's so much storage required, for example, that's it.
Yeah,
That's just, and that's,
yeah.
anytime anyone wants to say like, about a certain activity, it's a good time to say it, but the product that's gonna be reflected back by the stage in the process be as detailed as that.
The one thing that we learned from the surveys, and granted it wasn't a huge sample of surveys, is that a room big enough for town meeting was like, that was the top vote getter over 75 surveys. So as I say, it's not a big sample. But so here's this, you know, big space that we're building for town meeting, but we see it. I think the idea of having potluck dinners or dances or movies and a kitchen that you could actually set up for that kind of thing. Because that was all under the answers in our survey. So then, you know, what I hear now also is that storage is a big piece that we have to deal with. And a kind of a game room or, you know, a space in the community side that would be, you know, permanently able to be used as a gaming area. Or what?
Community area.
And I think I drew a little box on the drawing up there just now. I think the reason I do that is be, you know, for example, that kitchen could be on this.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden this kitchen is open, visible across this little reception area. Library, much easier for the flow.
Well, that's nice.
As opposed to the kitchen being all the way to the end. That's a long walk. I think, you know, we can start to dial in relationship with, you know, with this really helpful feedback.
It's a better place for the kitchen because it's not blocking the natural light that you're talking.
Yeah.
Against the wall, because then you could even have like seats by a bar area or whatever, so that it's very easy to see, and then you still keep the length of the room. I don't know. Yeah, again, that's the detail, it can be moved around. Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to point out that the town meeting is annual, once a year.
Yeah.
So, and then there are 2 exercise classes now off-site that require that kind of space. That would be fine to be separate from the rest of it. And so that's why I lean to a 2-story facility. And again, the potlucks, those would be occasional rental for, okay, you know, parties and whatnot of a larger sort. Those could be away from the community room, the maker space, the library space. I see the maker space and the library spaces as being dedicated. And I the community, then it's just, a lot to break it down. And I can't see this happening with folding tables and folding chairs. The young and the old, they all need substantial furniture that's sturdy and put up with, you know, a wide range of abilities and, but I mean, we couldn't do it with these kind of tables. This just wouldn't suit our purpose. And, that would be a disaster when it happens. So I don't see a community space like we're using it now as being something you could just lick away and store. And it's being used twice a week now. Or it's just there when we're open. People use it. People sit there with their laptops. The whole building is wired for fiber optics, Wi-Fi, and the ground. And they are all pretty ground when we're not open. And I think the flexibility in the spaces is wonderful. But there has to be dedicated spaces that don't rely on a lot of shifting in and out and.
That's definitely the maker of the space, I mean, because a lot of people work there, and what they do is they'll leave their project and it's all orderly and whatever, but their stuff is there because they know they're gonna come back in another day. I was impressed with that. I think that's important, that people don't have to shove it in some place if they know that they can come back to it. And it is used a lot. It's like the little kids, I've been in there and doing things with book activities that I'm making, and you know, kids at a rover, they're playing on the other table to make the thing, so, and they're drawing or they're painting and what have you. It's really nice to know that, oh, this isn't just an adult, but this isn't just a kid.
Yeah, right, and the knitting club and stuff for me there too.
Oh,
you know,
that's great.
yeah.
So, you know, I'm thinking maybe with my phone, I could go in and take video of this activities so that you could see them, so that maybe that gives us an idea. Oh, yeah, well, that's used more than I thought, or that space doesn't seem to be used that much. You know what I'm saying? That like another visual. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, it's gonna, you know, I can't quite envision how that big space is going to be, you know, available for so many different purposes, or how. But knowing that you build something and you figure that out, it's part of your building process, as opposed to renovating something which it's already set up and you just kind of move in and expand, or, you know, you have to deal with what's there. Then it both ways, you know, so.
I think that the way that I would say is like, if we think that 1,800 square feet is enough space for that, for all of those functions, that it's part of the next phase to figure out exactly how to create. And I think it's definitely important to keep in mind things like Penny's comment about, like, you know, super lightweight furniture might not be the right furniture for all of the activities. So we need to make sure that, like, if things need to be moved, maybe those things only get moved for those things here, and there's enough space left over that there is, you know, or, you know, the room is too big, and it needs to be more like a community room, and then the really big events have to help the currently, where there's some, you know, I think there's a lot of, there's questions like that that we will have to answer, but in terms of, yeah, go ahead.
That big room has a lot of possibilities. You can have walls. If you've never been to the Wilmot Gallery at Phillips Exeter, you have a huge room, it's a gallery. The walls move in, out, and so then you can have, there are 6 movable walls.
Where is this?
Phillips Exeter Academy,
Oh,
Wilmot Gallery.
okay, yeah.
And the walls move, they can go in, they come out, and I'm talking from the 70s, is the technology. So I'm sure the technology is a lot better, but one person, I've done it, moved those walls for the next art show. And You could make it one big room, you could make it 6 individual rooms with a hallway going through, so multiple things can go on. And I'm sure with what we're talking almost 50 years later, there's a lot more out there that we could look at doing that. So yes, town meeting is very important. It was very clear, nobody wants to go to Al's Ed to go to town meeting. But you could have multiple items going on in that big room that you move walls, which, you know, are on wheels and or whatever the new technology is to make different spaces throughout the rest of the time that's needed, or when they have the exercise class, have it bigger. But there is potential to do so much because it is a multi-purpose room. And you, in the corner, you have where the kitchen is and dedicated space there, but I think we need to look outside the box. There is potential there.
What if you enlarge the multi-purpose room widthwise to marry into the main meeting space? And then have another dotted line there showing movable wall.
So you're gonna dump the whole thing. Yeah, I mean, that's possible. The reason that I would caution against that is because that multi-purpose meeting room, which is sort of the room we're thinking about, is the makerspace right now. And the meeting room is probably gonna want some cabinets.
Yeah, and that's maybe water access, or, you know, something.
We might just need it, or it might end up needing space for that. But I think, yeah, no, of course, we don't want to, we're not at the point where we want to like close down possibilities.
Built-ins are good too. Oh, that's the iron board. Oh, yeah. I have to say, this is not my forte. I'm very taking the old house, tearing it. All right, so what do we need to do to go farther? This one for you.
I mean, I think this. I can, what I'd like to do is, you know, think about all this feedback. Refine the diagram. Such that, I mean, I would like to basically include a diagram like this in what we do. I don't want to show anything more detailed than this. Actually, this is not where we're at, but a diagram like this, I think, is an appropriate deliverable.
Yeah.
For this particular phase. So I think, you know, I would refine it based on a lot of this feedback, you know, like show where the basement is, think about that relationship with the teen room, think about the size of the stacks, think about the correct amount of storage.
Also relationship to the road,
Relationship to the road.
and the plots itself.
Would be nice to see that.
By itself, yeah. Exactly. And then basically produce a slightly beautified version of this diagram that would be part of the document that we present.
See, right now I see the reception as a good chunk of space and not sure what the multi-use could be. You know,
Yeah, that's a good.
given that the square footage, you know, we're like starving for storage and stuff like that, it's like 350 square feet. You know, what do we do with that? You know, if people are not gonna sit there, they want to be with others, you know. So,
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, like,
I think we thought of it as like a, sorry. I mean, I can see that. The reason that it wasn't larger than it was is because we thought of it as like space. Like,
what?
like exhibition, art,
Yeah,
something like that, as you pass through, so whichever direction you go, you know, similar to like the large hallway at the, I think at the Butler Center, there's an opportunity for people to have a display of some kind of display. And then also maybe like a little bit standing around, milling around.
and information and, you know, seeing which activities are going on. So
I think the space would be used. I mean, it's
it's
just
like in terms of size, maybe we can economize a bit on it and give some, you know, more to others.
yeah. Sure.
To this one, Dave, could you create the exterior, because that's really would be needed. Talking to the people, townspeople, kind of a, based on nothing exact, but what you're looking at as an exterior look of the building. That would be important. And then secondly, going back to what the conversation was with the reception area, we had talked about it being wide open and welcoming, but the other thing that we don't have on our list is that we do need to have a history of Guilford Butler School from an information, and that would be the place for a display about what the history of the reception in the reception area, you know, and you know, some of the things we talked about was when the building is dismantled, selling the bricks and having people's names and they buy bricks. It's a fundraiser. Are we gonna create a brick wall in the building or is it gonna be a brick entrance? So that was gonna go in the reception area, at least in my idea. So you do need it to be big because people want to know the history of what happened.
But when you're talking about the exterior, are you talking about like clapboard? Are you talking?
I think,
No, I just want to know if it's gonna be angular,
Okay, the
straight,
shape.
some type of visual, because people want to see that. And it might not be, we don't have to have the exact, but, you know, right now they see Guilford Butler Center. What's this new building you're envisioning? That's something, and obviously it can't be exact because it's a moving target, but to have some.
yeah, I think the short answer is I don't have time for that.
Okay.
I won't be able to do it. And I also think it's a little too early. Like, in order to actually, look, the way the software works, then you want to create any kind of three-dimensional image of the building, you have to like actually nail down windows. It's just like, I could do that. There's two risks. One, it's just sinking a bunch of time and proposing something that like puts us further out on a limb as a committee than we might necessarily want to go, knowing that so. And second, it has the software is very powerful because it can make something that's not at all real look really real. And that can get people really bogged down in the details and really bogged down in the like minor, well, not necessarily minor, they're important, but like the discussion of like, oh, well, is this the shape of this, that. When what we really want the public's feedback on right now is this.
Yeah.
But I think those are my two reasons not to show. Other than that.
But when we show this, I think we're going to have to explain what do we mean by multi-purpose meeting, you know,
Yeah,
so you have a list of activities.
Yeah, that will get,
Yeah, that
Fine.
will have to be.
And we still have our thesis statement, you know.
Yeah.
And that is, you know.
Well, my idea is that all those things are presented together in the document, if we review the outline of it. Go ahead. Maria.
Well, I know back in one of our meetings, actually it was at Guilford Butler, that we talked about doing a collage of all the different places we were looking at. Could we at least do something like
We can
that?
definitely do that.
That, and that's all I'm looking for, is that we need something that's visual.
And I'll produce I'll review
And
a
you can just
version
take
of
what everybody put
Exactly.
in.
we'll review a version of that at the next, I think you're before town meeting.
Now,
We have
do
looked
you
at,
have time for that?
That I do.
Okay.
I already started.
we have looked at small libraries, either online or visiting, so we know, you know. We're not trying to build some giant thing for 1,500 people. We're really trying to make something for the future, for the town, kind of a jewel of a building. I keep saying that, that really fits the purpose of the town now and into the future. All right,
That's it for that.
is that it?
So,
Can I have you email me that so I can go with them?
I will email that to the voter.
Thank you.
I'll email this marked up copy.
Put me in there.
You can stop my screen share. Thanks for sharing.
Ambassador group meetings. We're not a whole lot further on this topic. The idea of a ambassador, I see, ambassador group meetings is that we would have small groups of people, any of us on the committee could host an evening or a Sunday afternoon or Saturday morning, at your house for 4 or 5 people just to talk about the project. And we haven't really been able to get going because we don't have quite enough information. But we do have, I think with this, we will be able to do this in June and beyond to build connection with people, and people have questions, and we know that from when we've talked to various board member candidates, they have lots of questions. So the idea is to not have a big public meeting until we're ready to present, but to have some smaller meetings to talk about the project. And those of us that have been working on this are happy to go to anybody's ambassador group meeting, but I think we can each start to think about how we might like to, invite neighbors or friends to come and talk about where we're at.
And did we mention that we would like to have a set agenda so that we're kind of saying the same similar
Same things too, yeah, we have to have a sort of a, what do you call that? A plan.
An agenda.
I know, I'm trying to think of something else.
Schedule.
We all follow the same, script is what I was saying. A script.
We can circumlocute, it'll come to, it'll come back.
So that's really all I have to report on that. We can talk about that a little bit more at our next meeting if you get a little more information. But it would be nice to do some of them before town meeting.
Coming up very fast.
Yeah, come on, right?
Yeah,
It's June 20.
yeah,
Yeah.
so, I'm thinking we definitely will need like the schematic program. And also the spec list so that people can see, what can go into the building.
Yeah, I think. Tell me more about what you mean by that.
Well, like what, in terms of technology, in terms of systems, like, the air conditioning, the ventilation,
We're not gonna get there.
No.
I think that what we can say instead of that, sorry. Not to shoot that down. I think that again, it's a little too early. Because just for example, in order to actually design the systems, we engage in here, and we do several options, and we vet them together.
well, but is there a general description? Because that
If
we
you
want
start
to
doing that though, and people are going to get married to what they see.
I think
That's
we
not
produce a
saying
statement-
that.
Well,
a statement of-
I disagree.
a statement of
Want your
energy-
rooms, you just want them.
The rooms, and then a statement about energy performance.
That's what
Um,
Before.
But I wouldn't frame, all I'm saying is that I would provide that statement, but I wouldn't frame it in terms of.
It's like in terms of COVID, like we want to be able to have a safe environment, that's
Yeah.
what the,
So I think, I would rather say that,
yeah,
and say ventilation adequate for COVID safety.
that's what I'm looking
Yeah.
for.
Right, and that's in the thesis statement as well.
Yeah, I think I will make it.
Okay, great. You need help?
I will.
You can cancel it.
Okay, feedback, you want feedback. All right,
Um,
and we've talked about the final project data.
Yeah, that'll be. Mhm.
The June first meeting, so.
The June first meeting, we'll have the next discussion.
Okay. So we're not going to probably have a townwide meeting, mailing yet. We get more of this down.
Yep.
The idea was, we put things on the website, we send things to Terry, but at some point, when we're closer to realizing a design and realizing what the project data sheet is, that we might like to put something in a town mailing, spend the money. And
So many people that you don't reach, other than mail.
that's right. And I know that from people I've talked to, they haven't read anything there, you know. So, so I think we'll just take a hold on that one until the next meeting, and talk about that again.
Good. We have no correspondence.
No correspondence.
The next meeting is the 25th, right?
No, it's the
Yeah,
first.
first.
meeting.
1st of June. I know, it went wild, you guys, trying to get these dates. The 1st of June, 6 o'clock. It's the first Thursday of the month, and that historically has been what we've been doing, so it's easier for me to schedule that meeting with Terry.
So, yeah, June first, and then that, when we will be continuing this discussion, reviewing the revised diagram, and we're doing other content for the document. So that would be like the energy efficiency stuff, these are the images of building exteriors and interiors that were collected by the group. Things like
And you always have a Zoom option, right? I'm doing it other countries, so I'm thinking. Maybe come up in the United States. Sounds like fun.
You're gonna be out of the country? Oh, yeah.
If we can somehow give you feedback before that.
Yeah, but I'll email out the materials. To collect the.
Maybe May 31st, so. It would be a week before that, so I had time to respond.
Okay, so I think we're done. Any other comments that people want to make?
Good discussion.
Thank you for all the hard work.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. Makes a big difference.
Yes.
Visualize it.
So for attending and giving feedback, that's very.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Okay, so we are adjourned. You have my email address, you have. Yeah.
Get the numbers of the students that you had earlier. South Thompson.
It's not in the packet. It's not in there. And so we just continue something there.
Not visible. I haven't gone through it. I just got it. You just had a number of high school.
Thank you, Betsy.
Yeah, thanks all.
Thank you.
Well, it's not the. Sandy, did you include the list of the number of students and the various, the demographics? Did you
Yes.
include them in the packet?
I didn't put the demographics in the, I can send them.
You got your-
Oh, yeah. This was- I think everybody's fine. It's using, but it does separate out the function.
This came from the survey.
That came from,
Put together.
The only part is.
No.